1 game out of 10 now down for most of these players as they move through and navigate this entire section of the semifinals. 40 minutes down, and we've just seen 1 of those 5 games that have elapsed so far. And just to give you guys an update on who that was that won the last game, it was Polaris Vevi, another EU player, and they're starting off strong here today. Out of the 22 players who double qualified, he was not actually one of them, so I don't think he made it to the EU semis. Right here, right now, he's showing up on NA at least.
I mean, it's business as usual. Everyone's just coming to the server, playing on it if they live here or not. I feel like NA East has a little bit of trouble defending the farm, should I say, against all these other regions. And that being said, it's also business as usual when you come to the amount of players who are alive in these games, the stakes on them. That game 1 was a nice game that we saw, a very season 3 game with the caddy launcher, at the same time the grapple gun, and it's just looking good so far in NA East.
Yeah, it seems like that last duel always comes down to that. It's the only thing that you can really counter once you get shockwaved out of the zone is that glider gun, instantly firing that off. I did just want to shout that player out because we watched him on stream and he didn't have his name. Unfortunately, that's just a little discrepancy in the replay mode. No matter what, we give him his little credit there. I'm looking at the leaderboard as well to see if there's anybody else that worth naming. Paper has gone off to a 98-point start in game number 1. And I believe this is going to be it. Yes, look at that. 98 points in 1 game, but also Trey at the top. He's not on the leaderboard that I had. And there's a lot of different people moving up in the leaderboard.
For me, I think one name that we haven't seen in a long time, but was there during FNCS Invitationals and a little bit after that, is Nico. 5th place. We'll see, though, how he performs in his game 2 and game 3. Right now, it's the second one we're watching on stream for the DreamHack Open. Remember, 400,000 people signed up for this tournament across multiple regions. We're on NA East, down to the top 500, and only 100 can make it right through. So let's see where people drop. Caddy will be a late one, but everyone's already just flying, trying to touch the ground first.
Yeah. And Nico is somebody, actually, there's a lot of repetition in NA East, at least from what I'm seeing so far in the semifinals. Obviously, a lot can change, but Nico, Walkman, Trey, these are all guys that were playing supremely well, at least in the first couple of days in the open stages of the FNCS Invitational. I see Kadrent as well. Agers in the top 15. Continue to try to figure out who is going to be where as the day develops, especially on those big names that we're following, the people that we really expect to do very well. I want to see where Furious ends up landing.
I'll follow that same storyline I kind of put in the beginning. Jack, who's near that 30th, 20th place slot. Him, D-Roller, they're kind of side by side, laying traps, I think, for the rest of the people up here.
A note on Jack, Slurpee is kind of back, so I don't know where he switched to after it was gone in season 3, but maybe he's starting to already claim his stake back over there. Remember some of the duels he had within him and Acorn against Unknown and Ronaldo in some of the Sunday finals weeks in FNCS. And that was somewhere he stayed with all the way through the FNCS Invitationals. I will not doubt the fact that I'm almost guaranteeing we'll see 1 Jack win on stream today, because this man is always good for at least 2 or 3 in solos. And if it's a team mode, it's even more than that.
I guarantee too, when we watch it, he'll never be on camera till the last 1v1. It's always some Jack special. I don't know how he does it.
Watch this fight on the outskirts of the map. I saw an interesting elim. It was Animal on Benji Fishy. I'm not sure where that one's ending up going, but Benji Fishy did qualify for the grand finals with EU, so maybe taking this one a little bit more chill, but still, you know, he is hungry to qualify for both.
It's dramatic too, because this man is near that top 10. I think he's sitting at 11th or 12th. He's defending people like Mongrel, Benji, Snazy, who are right beside Jack in 30th on the leaderboard right now. EU basically trying to have their names on the NA East leaderboard. It's a theme we're seeing, I think, in this DreamHack competition more so than any solo cup or anywhere else, at least in terms of the focus we've been putting on it this entire broadcast. It's just, it has to be the OGs. It has to be people like Animal defending against these huge monsters like Mongrel, who know how to play these games no matter what ping they're on.
And Animal also very hungry. Obviously, I'm referring to Sentinel's Animal, by the way, one of the OGs, like you mentioned. one of the veterans of competitive Fortnite, but when I say he's hungry, I mean it. At DreamHack Anaheim, he had probably one of the most disappointing finishes for himself to date once he made it to grand finals. You remember, through 6 or 7 games, he had 0 points. In the last one, or last 2, he did catch right back up and push himself up to, I think, around the top 60, but still, you could tell that was devastating to him. He's still been performing decently and more and better in solos than he used to. So at least there's some change and an upward trajectory for Animal, even in things like solo cash cups, which traditionally he did not care about.
Yeah, I mean, he was a primarily duo player that a lot of people, him and Aspect, they always, you know, you hear one, you think about the other two, and they were the primary source of learning how to play duos, learning how to calm with your teammates. Masterclass basically in skill. Nice pickle by Bernos there. A lot of Fortilla action here today. And here's the man himself against the winner from last game.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different things right now that I'm looking at. Vevi, obviously the winner, like you said. Animal dropping at the Authority, a very aggressive spot, but also that means that Benji was still landing at the Authority, even though he's on EU ping. Animal, though, on the back foot against Vevi. 2 players who are up there on the leaderboard. I think top 3 versus basically top 10, which means this fight could have impacts far-reaching and wide. Pressure coming in. This is basically a full-on box fight. If we were in creative, this entire room has been transformed into Clix's 1v1 box fight map.
You know how important ping is in these box fights, so I feel like Animal has the advantage, but he doesn't have the materials, just 2 left. He has to go for these shots. There could be a few more he can pick up. It's a little bit, but I don't think it's enough to really get kind of prolong this fight. 2 quick shots drops Polaris down to 1 HP. This is his fight wrapped up.
This is, and he has the burst SMG too, which is known to sneak shots through ping on players that can't hold the turbo build fast enough and only attack, so that's not going to finish off Animal in any quick fashion, especially up at 200 effective HP. Should be able to just fire through this, although I don't know where I saw the burst from. It's not his inventory anymore. Maybe I just completely missed. He loses track of him too. Vevi might be able to make an escape out the side. Here we go, last charge shots, and it works. Animal with 2, and he wins the Authority. There's still 3 players lurking nearby, 2 on the outside of it. That looks to be where the glider gun is, as you saw that green arrow kind of hop over the blue. But he does have the vault card at the very least.
Has to be careful though, because as he was fighting, everyone around him was farming. And if he gets into another kerfuffle, he's not going to have the resources to maintain a prolonged exchange.
Bottom left, you just saw Snipe God actually get a quick 2-piece elimination, 1 on Godsense Wakey, as they fought off spawn at the little cottage on the lake outside of the former grotto. So that's the type of stuff that you have to be very careful with early game. Quick third parties.
There's going to be different types of ebb and flows all throughout the early game. We'll have people like Tilturn looking to take their shot, but at the same time see those fights like we saw with Animals still going on in their POIs. P-God gets absolutely beamed, and someone else sharing the same fate over at 20 stands. It's going to be by a shark though, oh God.
Oh. I can't even laugh anymore, man. I can't even laugh.
There was this clip with Felix, I think, on Twitter where a shark actually hit a gas station and took him down from 200 HP to 0. So it's not the worst. I've seen the worst. It's not the worst, but unfortunately it happens.
Okay,
yeah.
Nice. Look at the bright side. I like it. I like it. Look at that sweaty sands. This is another POI that's had a little bit coming back into this. We hop back to that fight with P-God and Tilturn, where Tilturn got the advantage on P-God, the beams to start things off, but all of a sudden P-God is back up to what I think is, at least 120 effective HP, and even gonna take more time to heal. A big pot has been taken as they even things out, but also another player joining in on the left side of this fight. So P-God backing up to the metal car and getting a little bit more materials.
And Tilturn definitely lit a good trap in the forest, but then following Pigot to his home, knocking on the door, it's a different situation. It's a box fight. There's different mechanics there. You don't really have an advantage once that player is shielded up. So it'll be even on all ends. You mentioned a third party. He wants no business in this. Holly Hedge is one of those POIs that you have to kind of land at or you're always going to feel uncomfortable. I'm not sure how long this will go on for, but it's an investment on both ends.
I love this imagery that you just put in our heads right now of Tilturn lurking in the forest as Pigot tried to come out and taking advantage of that, but then Pigot going right back into Holly Hedges and forcing Tilturn to jump over the hedge, though Pigot dropping in the box. He's going to charge up that shotgun. Tilturn not afraid to take this, not afraid to take the edits on the charge. Let's see how this goes. A full box from Pigot, and he will switch to the AR, but the aim is better for Tilturn. Last ammo remaining, and he was able to clean that up. From what looked like they were going to stop fighting, all of a sudden they were like, no, that player's gone. This is the chance. Let's hop in. 1v1, mano a mano.
It's too close for comfort. Every fight we're seeing is going down to the last bullet, removal of all shields on both players. And then they're just having to recuperate, recover, and face another player who's going to be coming in either from the backside or from where they have to go. It'll be Serbs in front and KSV behind Tilturn. He's going to have a proper rotate to get past and get through this.
Right here in the bottom left is a fight between Versa and Mr. Savage at Pleasant Park. Two of the EU players, and Versa dives in. Mr. Savage had the edit there. He lets him through, and that will end up costing him his life as he moves on to most likely a third game already. And against one of his cohorts, that's not something he's going to be happy about at all.
I guess that fight's going on because they're still in zone and it's safe to be there. Meanwhile, everyone else has already packed their bags. They're moving way past Tilturn. Everyone else is trying to get all the way into Pleasant Park near the north. It's crazy to see the differences in everyone's journey just in this game. Now, Positive, he's looking for his shot at a three-way fight, something we haven't seen before just yet this early. It's on all sides, brick and wood being used. Water near the ground, but I feel like these guys will stay elevated. That being said, this is very noisy. And we're near a protected neighborhood of people who just want to sleep. Holly Hedges, they're going to get bothersome. They might just go straight for this fight and try to end it before these guys can. No shields on Positive's inventory. Gonna have to medi up. He has the time, but just look at the minimap. These players are looking over at this fight, kind of winning in and then moving out. It's tempting.
The way the zone is going, you're going to see these people take quick rotations through. We saw in the last one how long it lasted, above 70 players. This obviously dragging a lot farther away, not towards the center of the map. So fights like these are breaking out a little bit more comfortably, especially as people lose their first. There's a nade thrown in the middle of the box. Oh, it snuck in. No. And all of a sudden, Positive, I don't think he even realized that. He has to be aggressive to at least get him off. He's going to phase the ramp, but it's not quick enough. Has to edit up and go up. But is he actually going to buy the time? No, I don't think so, because he has to reload the charge. But the other player backs up to get a big pot. Nades coming in, though. And this is what you were talking about. So many different players. Positive with no heals either to get his way back into this. All he has to do is hit one big shot, but that is going to be so difficult when they're playing defensive.
Has to be a perfect 1-2. This rarity has to warrant a headshot with that charged shotgun. But the edit this other player has, it's not going to be an easy one to hit for Positive. Nowhere near placement. 64 people alive, just one Elam, and he's already spent so much time in this game. Losing here is not going to be a good thing. Well, what else can he do? Zone's coming in as well. He's only going to have about 5 seconds to stay in it. It's that much more dangerous because of that grenade. He can't move out. He has to go for this.
All the time, he's not actually trying to contain his opponent, not actually trying to regain control of the box that he needs. The zone is coming, and it is going to be a one tick. So 5 seconds in, and he will fall to his shots. He tried to take the combat apple, but out in the open when there's already somebody looking at you, there's no chance you're making out of that. I think he didn't realize the zone was coming. in time. I didn't even realize. I was so focused on the intricacies of that box fight.
And although people are winning box fights left and right, they're using so many resources, so much time, that when they finally get in zone, they have to double the amount of brick, the amount of wood they use for their bases. Resolving pressure. Animal, though, the man of the match, I would say, still getting elimps tactically, not in prolonged box fights, not losing shields anymore after authority. He's looking strong here, and he has one of the best positions in Sweaty Sands, a lot of real estate. One person I wanted to talk about, who's right next to Animal in the leaderboards, is Niddle. We talk about OGs who played so well. We talk about sleeper picks for some of the best players in the world. He's qualified for so much. He's played so well in every mode, and he's back-to-back, wall-to-wall with the king of the game himself, Animal. Freist also winning another game, shooting way up on the leaderboards. Everything is neck and neck. All these players, if you win a game here, you get so much more comfortable. You rise to the top. Remember, it's the top 100 here in the semifinals.
So far, out of all the players I was looking at in the top 10 of yesterday's leaderboard, the only player I'm not seeing up there is Commandment. I'm not seeing anything about him at all. So a completely different environment maybe causes Commandment off to a slower start. We'll have to check in later to see where he is. Animal up there, Blake up there. You mentioned Frisk getting another win in another lobby. That's important to note as well.
I mentioned momentum in that pre-show too. You mentioned Commandment. We saw the way he actually rose up in the heats. It was early wins. It was early performance followed by a little bit of a lull and then a final push near the end. If he doesn't have that early push, which we're obviously not seeing right now, can he even qualify is going to be my question.
Kadrent also in this game. Tyler's was a surprise. Top 50 perform. Actually, I think it was top 25 or something. Very, very, very good from Tyler's, and he has not really been seen in high levels of competitive Fortnite since all the way back to the days of PAX West, where he had one of the original competitive Fortnite skirmish high elimination games. Since then, obviously, there's been eclipsed by players like Mongrel, Mitro, and other names like that, but it's good to see him back at the top. We saw him a little bit in trios, but
look at these bases. Tyler's has some real estate. It's kind of like an L base. Niddle has an entire, I would say, bungalow down here near the swimming pool. Animal, we already saw his control near the hotel, but Jin is knocking on his door. Simp right behind him.
What?
Is that a shark?
It's just chopping down his builds, man. The entire time. I think there was some like a loot trail kind of leading in through Animal's base that the shark was just like, yeah, I'm gonna eat it up. He took some damage from that too.
Imagine being somewhere on height, seeing a shark and throwing like minis or something to attract it to certain bases, like like a little pet.
Yeah. Nice pick from Blake. Opening up the gap with the grenades and then firing through with the AR. That's an easy pick on somebody who's low HP, and he recognized that, but it goes to Niddle in terms of loot, which Blake was trying to move over for, but also trying to edge his way into zone. I think he knew that Niddle overtook. Base is up on top. Now he's edge for fourth. And here's the Commandment update that I was looking for. 29th place with 76 points, so maybe some consistent play over 2 games is what I'm expecting out of that.
All right. One thing I'm noticing for this zone, we have kind of a king of the circle. There's one arrow all the way in the middle on that house. I'm not sure who that is, but they're getting the most information and the biggest bang for their buck, basically, for being that early to the spot.
59 as this notification goes up. 59 players alive. That means 9 need to go down. This will be a pretty significant surge. As pretty much everybody's in zone already. I don't expect too many more to fall. You're talking about the player up on height in the center of this. I'm seeing Paper on the edge of this with a little bit of elevation. Paper, who was in first place for a brief moment as we first got the updates of leaderboards, then second place in the last update we looked at, which means a potential for him to rise above the crop Speaking of that center hotel position, basically, he actually is going to have to move no matter where the zone goes. So not going to be able to hang on to that unless he builds forward, but I don't expect the server to allow that.
It's a one crash pad thing. I always feel like it's so risky to be there, but then I forget about this one item that we see used every single endgame.
Yeah.
Each complex has their own king too. It's a no-name right now that we see above Serbs, but they're getting pressured the least, and Serb is getting taken down so close for a nice one charge, but wow, if you just make a single mistake.
That's 2 games in a row too for Serbs where he, does decently to get to this point. The last game we saw a couple snipes out of him, which puts him up towards 50 points. So that's at least okay, but has to have better moving forward. But as long as he stays that consistent, things should look okay for him. Thinking about the threshold for top 100 in EU, it was slightly above, what was it? 260 or so. I'll have to recheck on that one. I kind of just made that number up after his time. Oh, Strobe! Unfortunately, as he tries to get towards 5th, he does get hit quite a lot off of that power position that you're talking about, but the crash pad placed down in Sweaty allowed him to get forward. Yes, he does. Goes into the side, and he's going to be able to find a spot in zone, though. Nostalgia opens on him, misses the shot, though.
There's action on all sides. Rubified is also wall-to-wall with KSV, who was at the bottom of his base. That player we were talking about near the center was the latest to move for this zone. Rubified finally chomps down onto KSV. Nevify is now the new king of, I think, this entire zone. Paper, though, still sitting nearby, did not take, I think, any damage at all. He was staying on 150 the entire time from the last zone. So he's playing very well, but probably used a lot of mats to get where he got. Tyler's, though, on the same side as Animal, still alive. Cadron, Bala mentioned him before. Looks like he has some type of mobility because he's looking very strong in hard metal bases. Still, though, fights box to box.
Strobe might engage in that as well. I think, yes, he will. There's a player fighting somebody else on the backside of it. It's Ace against Kadrent. Kadrent backing off, but Strobe will take huge advantage of that. There's some chug splashes and a bunch of loot. The refresh is okay. I think the reason why that player was fighting in the first place was low materials at all. He didn't even pick up any of the heals from that at all, so no benefit besides the siphon, but at least there's that. Launch pad ahead of zone quite early because he was on the backside. So has to land now, and maybe also has to find himself another Elim. Lands next to Niddle, though, so this might get difficult.
5 letters on Strobe's brain, and that's speed. He's going to be pushing straight forward, box to box. Has a nice shot. Wow, what an adjustment. Gets that pick down. 60 builds, now has more. Could cap all the way out. 25 seconds till this zone closes in. Ronnie getting seamed down. Friend on friend action. That's very unfortunate. Strobe's on the backside. He gets to see everything develop and then pick his spot. Although he was playing very reactionary, now it's time to slow down and think, though. On the top side, it's a fight for who can say they have ultimate height and the drop on everyone else. It'll be Rich Homie Boone, I believe, against Ronnie.
And I think he's gonna be able to take him out in zone. Boone now has to layer down, elevate his way all the way, but Ronnie has height. There's crash pads all around. I don't see the shockwave launcher, but it could still be in play. Meanwhile, Strobe still doing what he does best, sneaking in the old builds and almost get another shot. Ronnie with 61 builds will be able to stay up in this for sure, but for how long? It's a crash pad across the way. Hopefully he'll be able to maintain height. Yes, he looks back and nobody's taking advantage.
And there are these dark horses, Rubified, Niddle, Moody, never even seen a shot just yet, still staying alive, building perfectly. Ronnie, though, controlling everything in this absolutely aquatic zone that is not moving anywhere near land. So it's you and your builds versus the world. Right now, there are a few people in zone, but everyone is holding side by side, arm to arm, just trying to survive. Paper is in the thick of it the most. Strobe around his box. There's people launch padding, crashing left and right. It's chaos all around. You can't understand it. You can only react. People now are starting to fall a little bit behind. There's builds being broken. Ronnie up against a build fight against someone who has no HP. The last push he can make, he gets a big shot off onto Ronnie. On the bottom side, though, things are changing. We have Strobe getting 2 quick picks back to back, playing position perfectly, and Ronnie holds down to the top side of the zone. Niddle, though, waiting for his chance to take these over.
But Ronnie drops down and actually finds the shockwave launcher in zone, and with floppers, he's gonna be able to take the time to use this as best as possible. Gonna hold on the height too. At the same time, Strobe still looking with the compact SMG in boxes and taking a lot of shots down below. I believe Paper's now out. Niddle's still in this. Still some threats, especially Strobe as he looks and gets another one. Pre-fired by 50 ping is on the backside of that. Strobe still pressuring, but now running out of materials. Hasn't got actually any refresh. Ronnie's still on height with Kit's charge though, and the shockwave launcher.
Someone needs to stop Strobe. We know Ronnie has the best chance to win this game, but this man is picking up every single elimination. He's getting all the points away from everyone else. Slacks is going to be his next target. Box to box, Strobe is looking in, trying to see who he can find next with this big charge. It's suspense on all fronts. There's big shots coming down. Ronnie out of builds is looking to push straight in. He gets one. That's Blonde finally down. Strobe there, wall to wall, trying to pick things up. It's finally the two Titans back to back. Strobe does not see people behind him.
And here comes Caddy, the shockwave launcher up, but no, he loses to pre-fired by 50 ping, and the shockwave launcher is now in his hands, up on height as well, potentially more material. Strobe still staying low. Another P90, yes, onto Slacks. He's down, 1v1v1. Shockwave launcher is in play all the way up. He's actually out of zone, but he has the glider gun to get back in, but we'll get shredded by Strobe, but it doesn't matter as pre-fire gets another one too. Hold on, he dropped it. I don't know where that went. Roke will win. Did they trade the shockwave launcher in the final moments? I think they just did, because I'm for sure saying that Roke did not get it off of who originally had it up on height, who was Big Ronnie.
That thing traded so many different hands. I'm not sure where and how it ended up in those hands at the very end of things, but once again, grapple versus Caddy launcher. Once again, one player just dominating everything with no power weapons. NA East, no matter what you throw at these players, they make the best of it, and they get what they need to stay up top on these boards.
And it's surprising to me to see the shockwave launcher trade hands so many times. I do want to bring in Kelly to talk a little bit about that, because for me, I think it shouldn't be changing hands this much because it's so easy to disengage with it, but maybe the top players aren't actually contesting in Caddy.
I mean, guys, quick before we jump into a break right there, the last fight that we saw was completely over water. How exactly does that affect the players, and how does the game play change?
I mean, from what I saw, it's something we don't, it's kind of different every time. So one thing we were alluding to is, how did this gun change so many hands? How did the Caddy launcher just switch power time and time again? It's because we are over water. You can't really drop the ultimate low, go for big frags. You can't just keep sending people into the storm. There's so many builds in the way. When you're over water, there's more boxes. People are playing tighter, but they run out of mats faster. They go for desperate plays. You saw Ronnie take multiple height fights, which you wouldn't, I think, if you had a mountain to control with, right? If you had a little bit of land to play with. But when you're over water, no matter what portion of height you're on, you are affected. We saw it there. That gun switched hands. The person who I thought was going to win changed every single second, and all the way down to the final 1v1, it was a toss-up.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some players in deep water there, and there's some players in deep water in our leaderboards right now. 500 players, whittling it down to 100, trying to make it into the grand finals right now. Taking a look at the top 20 here, chat, you can see number 1, it is Buck FPS, and then we have Pre-Fired by 50 Ping, Paper in 3rd, Agers in 4th, and then Walkman in 5th.
Bucky is back, and I'm so happy to see that. This man was the OG solo player using launches as crash pads basically before they ever existed in season 4 or 5. So happy to see he's at the top. When this man is confident, I feel like we're going to be seeing some crazy and amazing games coming up soon.
And yes, you talk about momentum with a couple different players. Shio's mentioned it a bunch of times. Bucky's one of these guys, to me, not necessarily tournament to tournament playing with momentum, or within a tournament playing with momentum, but when you think about what he's done recently, winning the Elite Cup is what he just did with his team, and that will carry him through hopefully to today. He played well yesterday, and right now sitting at the top, he's got to feel good.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And that was the top 20 there, chat. Obviously, we're going to be looking at the top 100 moving on tomorrow. Some recognizable names in the top 100 right now. We have Roke, who we just saw, Blitz, Booga sitting actually at 21, almost made it to the top 20 right there, and a bunch of other names. But this is still just the first hour of competition for North American East, guys. We have tons of games to go before we find out who the top 100 we'll be seeing tomorrow is. But before we get into that, we're going to take a quick break.